Welcome to our special episode for Black Maternal Health Week 2025. Today, we are diving deep into the personal stories and experiences of Black women during childbirth in the United States. Our guest today is Natasha Fahlgren, Consortium Manager at San Bernadino, and Jessica Wade, Program Manager at Healthy Start Enhanced, San Bernadino, who will share their birthing experiences. So, I'll let Natasha and Jessica take it away.
Well, hi, Jessica. Happy Black Maternal Health Week 2025.
Yes. Hey, Tosh. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to be here with you as well. I just want us to come together and just talk about our birthing journeys, shed some light on some issues surrounding Black maternal health. I really just wanted us to add a personal touch to this week because we both got into this work because of our personal experiences, navigating the healthcare system and navigating resources and just birth and being a mom. So I'm glad we can come together to have a nice conversation about that. So I can start.
Okay.
I just want to begin by just talking about the beginning part of my journey and the initial steps that I took to prepare for childbirth. And I will just start off by saying the first thing I needed to do was get over the denial.
It's happening.
Right, that this was happening. So I kid you not, I took 6 pregnancy tests. Yes, I did say 6. And that was because I just didn't believe it. And then honestly, it didn't even become a reality until I got my first ultrasound. Wow. And I was like, oh, there really is a baby in there.
Right.
Okay, this is happening. This is real. Yeah. And then you get all the anxiety, all the fear, like, oh my God, am I going to be a good mom? Like, how am I going to do this? You know, you have all that initial shock. And then it was just, I figured I was just going to do what everyone else had done. I was going to have this baby. I was going to go to my healthcare appointments with my healthcare provider, do everything they told me to do. And then I was going to give birth to this baby at a hospital and take that baby home and take care of it because that's what I knew. And that's what everyone that I know had ever given birth knew. And I was never told any different. So there was never any thought in my mind that my birth could look different or that I could have a say in how that birth was going to look. So in my mind, it was just going to be that. Go to my appointments, go to the hospital, come home. And that would be the end of it. And then my mothering journey would begin.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Tosh, thank you so much for sharing that because you know, the first step is like the reality of it all, right? When you find out you're expecting and like hoping that your pregnancy journey is kind of like what you've seen, right? For me, when we found out we were expecting, so I took 1 pregnancy test, but we didn't believe it either. And me and my husband, we were like, okay, how are we going to figure out if this is true or not? And so I Googled, and you know, it's so funny because I never tell this part of our story, but I was Googling like, can you go to the doctor and they let you know? And we came across something that said, if you go to urgent care, you know, if you tell them your stomach hurts, the first thing that they do is do a pregnancy test. So that's what we did.
I mean, hey, it worked, right?
I know. So we took 2 pregnancy tests at home. And then I was like, okay, let's go to urgent care. I'm just going to say my stomach hurts. And then they ended up doing, we did a urine sample and, you know, they said that I was pregnant. And so from that moment, of course, you know, we weren't trying, but so excited about expecting our first child. Just like you, Tosh, you know, I was like, oh, my goodness, I'm excited about my pregnancy, thinking about my maternity photo shoot, all of the amazing things, going to the hospital, coming home, having our baby shower. And, you know, my pregnancy was nothing like that. It was, you know, extremely painful, having to navigate systems that are extremely complicated without having that education or like knowledge or anyone in my family that has the medical background that can give us advice. I didn't know what a doula was. I didn't know what a lactation specialist was. I didn't know that there were programs like Healthy Start, like Black Infant Health, like WIC. I just knew that I needed support. And so my journey of a traumatic birth started extremely early. And we kind of just wrote it out and did what we could and educated ourselves along the way. But, you know, I wish I knew what a doula was. I wish I knew.
Listen, I was going to jump in right you said that because this is how I found out about midwives and doulas. So when we finally got the word out to our family that we were pregnant, you know, we waited a while until we announced it. His cousin, and I'm going to say she's a white woman, said to me, you have to have a midwife. And in my mind, I'm like, a midwife? I'm like, what is that? And the only thing I
Right.
can remember was I remember when I was younger, I used to watch a British show called Call the Midwife.
Yes.
And so in my mind, I'm like, she's gonna have some little white woman come into my house to check my baby. I'm like, that's not a thing. We don't live in England. That's not a thing
Right.
here. So I'm like, what is
Right.
she talking about? And she's like, you have to have a midwife, and I'm going to help you find midwives. And then we're Googling all of these midwives that are located in different areas, different racial backgrounds, different level of expertise, different, certifications. I'm like, wow, this is a whole thing. Like midwives exist in America and they're still practicing fully. But I want to emphasize she's a white woman because I grew up with mostly Black women, and I've watched generations of women give birth. I've heard generations of women talking about birth. And not one time that anyone in my circle or anyone that I had come across ever, not one of them mentioned to me about a midwife. Not one.
Exactly.
So that just underscores the lack of knowledge and understanding of available existing resources that are available for people that are pregnant or in the postpartum period. And then it was from my midwife that I got introduced to services about doula. And I was glad she was there because it really helped shape my birth experience, because not only was it a support, but she gave me knowledge about options, about creating a birth plan that I could shape how I wanted my birth to look. Like I had options, which is something that a lot of women don't know that they have. You can shape how you want that birth to look. But this is why it's important. Like you said, you didn't know about Healthy Start. You didn't know about BIH or Black Infant Health. I didn't know about any of those things. Plus, I didn't know about mom nutritional centers. I didn't know about WIC. I didn't know any of those resources existed.
Right.
And that and for the most part, I still didn't know the majority of those resources existed until well after I gave birth. Something years later, I'm still learning, resources that exist. And that's only because I'm in this role.
Absolutely.
Now, mind you, I was in healthcare for 18 years before this and never came across any of those things. So,
oh my gosh, Tosh, you brought up something, and this is like why I believe it's so important to really talk about preconception health and talk about the resources that are out there to support you as you enter in this journey of motherhood, or enter into this journey of, wanting to become a mother and learning more about your body, also learning more about the resources that exist. And I will say, I wish I had a doula, because as you know, my water broke at 21 weeks with my first pregnancy, and I was on hospital bed rest for 58 days. So as I was in antepartum and laying on my back trying to save my baby, I can only imagine if I would have had a doula. I had amazing family members come and visit me and give me support and everything. But if I had a doula to help me navigate that system, I ended up having to switch my OB while I was on hospital bed rest due to me using Google to learn that, like, oh, I don't have to take this. I can modify this to make sure that even though I'm on bed rest, I still have some type of control with what my birthing experience can look like. And like, I was like, people give birth at home? What is this? How is this possible?
Birth centers, there's so many options.
Centers?
Some people birth on their own. It's, there's a lot of
like
options
on
out
the
there.
way to the hospital. Here's the it's crazy. So yes, I'm so grateful to be in this work and to have access to so many amazing community birth workers and just supporters in community. It can change your life, and it can also save your life in this instinct.
For sure. And I will, I want to highlight how it can save your life, because when I was going through my, navigating the healthcare system and some challenges that can come up, when I was going to my prenatal visits, the doctor, she said to me, here, you're going to take this aspirin and this will help prevent complications. And I went home, I had the aspirin. I never took it. And I said to my midwife, she's like, well, what medication are you on? I'm like, well, the doctor gave me this aspirin, but I haven't been taking it. She's like, well, why you haven't been taking it? I'm like, she didn't really explain to me what I was taking it for. And I wasn't sure if it was going to harm the baby. So I just decided not to take it. And at that time during COVID, I couldn't bring my husband or a support person to those appointments. I was doing those all by myself. And I had hardcore pregnancy brain. So for me to ask those questions during my visit, my brain just didn't tell me to ask them. So I didn't think to ask, okay, well, why am I taking this aspirin? What is it actually going to do? And what side effects will it have on my baby? My brain didn't think to ask any of that. But my midwife explained that all to me. She's like, it's possible that you're at risk for preeclampsia. And I was like, well, what is preeclampsia? And then she explained to me what preeclampsia was. It's like, this is what the those aspirin will do, and it'll prevent these complications. I'm like, okay, so that's the information I needed. And then I started taking the medication. Now, if I went back to my doctor and hadn't taken it, then now I'm non-compliant, right?
Right.
So now I'm not compliant with taking my medications, but I would have been non-compliant because I didn't understand what the medication was for. And then it could have led to other complications during my pregnancy. But even like as you're speaking about having a doula at your birth, I remember I was getting the epidural and I was telling the anesthesiologist that I was getting pain down my leg. Okay. And he was
Mm.
not listening. And I wound up passing out while I was getting my epidural. I think because I just got too stressed out and he wasn't listening to me. I
Yeah.
literally passed out. They had to
Oh,
revive me with smelling salts.
oh my
And then my husband's like, he's like,
gosh.
the only reason why I didn't get on that man was because he had a large needle in your back. He
Oh
was like, and
my
I was getting really upset that you were standing here telling him you were in pain. He was not listening. And the man was just completely
gosh.
like cold, wasn't listening to anything I said, nothing like that.
Wow.
But yeah, but then the rest of the time it was, the rest of my time was pretty good. But even after the fact, when I went for my follow-up OBGYN appointment and I told her I was having back pain, and I'm like, and it started
Mhm.
when I got, that epidural. And she's like, oh,
Mhm.
she's like, oh, I'll send a message to the anesthesiologist. And I was telling her how he wasn't listening to that I was having
Mhm.
pain. And then my left leg was swollen.
Oh my
And it continued
gosh.
to be swollen for like months after my birth. And they just kept telling me it was normal. But when I saw my cardiologist, he was like, that's absolutely not normal.
Right.
It was like they should have addressed that right away because you could have had a blood clot or maybe
Mhm.
something was going on with your
Mhm.
heart. And I will say during my labor, my blood pressure shot up to 200 over something. It
Oh
was like
my
really out of
gosh.
range. So, yeah, there was obviously a problem that no one was addressing. I kept getting like repeat infections that no one was addressing. The only reason why I got all those things taken care of was because of my
Mhm.
midwife. She
Oh
listened to every
wow.
single symptom I had and she ordered tests and I changed to a different doctor and that doctor read everything that she was requesting and got
Yeah.
those tests done. And so I was able to get the treatment that I needed
Oh my
only because of that
gosh.
midwife. Hmm.
Oh, Tasha, my
Yeah. So
heart,
that's why
like,
it's important to have those support
yeah,
systems. Yeah.
it's so important. Like, even thinking about like different challenges that we've navigated within our pregnancies.
Hmm.
Like for me, I had my pregnancy come like week 6, week 7. I was in pain. Like I said, I know it can't. I mean, like I know pregnancy is difficult. This was my first time being pregnant. I didn't know what it was supposed to feel like, but I knew it shouldn't hurt for me to walk across the street and go get the
Hmm.
mail. And
Right.
so from like 7 weeks pregnant to about 21 weeks pregnant, I went to urgent care 7 times, different
Oh,
urgent
wow.
cares. Because after going to the first one, I was like, okay, they're saying I'm okay, but I don't feel like I'm okay.
Right.
And so I went to multiple urgent cares. They all sent me home. So after a while, I felt like I was screaming in silence. Like, I'm like, do you guys
Hmm.
not hear me? Do you not understand? But now I know, because I was under 21 weeks pregnant, that, if I was to miscarry, I was just to miscarry. They wouldn't do any interventions until I hit 21 weeks. But, my water ended up breaking at 21 weeks. And then
Hmm.
we lost one of our twins. It was a twin pregnancy. And I ended up on hospital bed rest. But now thinking back, I'm like, imagine if I would have had a support system like a doula,
Hmm.
or if I would have been in contact with midwives and I was going to them with my same concerns. They would have come with me to urgent care, or they would have been able to
Hmm.
uplift, how I was feeling and help me navigate the systems. And so the systems
Right.
of care. And then our son ended up being in the NICU 143 days after being born. And so that's a whole nother world that is not touched on unless you've experienced it. You don't know kind of what's needed in that space. I didn't even know what a NICU was.
Right.
And, thank goodness I gave birth at a hospital that actually had a level 3 NICU on site, because not all hospitals have neonatal intensive care units to be able to support families who have babies who are born preterm or have any underlying medical conditions. And so navigating that space has really pushed me into this work, like we talk about all the
There you
time,
go. Hmm.
and encouraged me to become a postpartum doula with emphasis on NICU postpartum care to help un- to help women and birthing people and families understand what's happening in that space. And so everything happens for a reason. And both of our birthing experiences has got us here to be able to
There you go.
navigate, for our family. So we're doing it, Tosh.
We are. We're doing it. We're doing it. But I wanted to ask you, and because we were talking about resources during, our pregnancy journey, like specifically, if you could say that the Jess that I am now, if you could talk to the Jess that you were then, what resources would you direct her to?
Oh my gosh. I don't know why I just got so emotional with that question, because if I could go back 11 years and talk to the Jess that was experiencing, oh my goodness, I wouldn't say depression, but was experiencing so much trauma with like being misunderstood and not being guided and being not being listened to, first of all, I would definitely suggest that just to reach out to a local doula, to reach out to, I live in Los Angeles County, so to reach out to AIM, which is the African American Infant Maternal Mortality Committee, to see what resources that they can provide. I would definitely connect with a program like Healthy Start, like Black Infant Health, or like an in-home a program that provides in-home support, to be able to navigate what I was experiencing, what I was feeling. I would reach out to WIC, and I would have gotten WIC as soon as I found out I was expecting, because in addition to being pregnant, financial insecurity it did happen to me personally within my the early phases of our pregnancy. So having that additional support to relieve some of those stressors, and also make sure that I'm still eating healthy during my pregnancy. Oh my goodness, I would talk to a lactation education specialist or IBCLC early, because after I
Yes.
gave birth, I
Mm-hmm.
met with the IBCLC, and she said it was too hard for me to do. My baby needs to eat, so it's either donor breast milk
Mm-hmm.
or formula, which isn't bad, right? No mommy
Mm-hmm.
shaming. But if I knew how magical my body was earlier in my pregnancy, I would have been able to lean in and embrace that more. And so those are just some of the resources initially that I would definitely look into. But honestly, I always start with doulas, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they would help you navigate what you need, because they're so connected to community. What about you, Tosh? If you can go back and talk to the Tasha, what would you
Oh,
say?
so many things. I would pretty much everything you said, but I would really like to lean into the doulas and I would
Hmm.
say not just during the birth, but also in the postpartum period too.
Hmm.
Postpartum doulas are amazing, because if you don't have that extra family support, having
Yeah.
someone to be there to help you through that is invaluable. But I really want to lean into how underutilized lactation educators are, how
Hmm.
underutilized IBCLCs are, because
Hmm.
I really think insurance companies need to really consider how important breastfeeding is for infant health. That is like
Yeah.
their third source of nutrition. And if the mom can't breastfeed, then she's supplementing with formula.
Hmm.
But there are some
Hmm.
moms who are doing both,
Hmm.
but they still want to breastfeed, but maybe they can't produce enough and they maybe need to supplement with formula, or they're using donor milk. But insurance companies really need to emphasize breastfeeding, especially not only in the prenatal period, but also postpartum too, but also providing a way for covered services in the home.
Absolutely.
So some of them will have you come into the office, like they say, oh, we have this service, you can come into the office, but we're tired.
We're tired.
We're tired and we're worn down. So you're bringing us into the office and you're trying to tell us stuff. And if you were like me during COVID, you didn't have your husband there to
Yeah.
co-listen and
Yeah.
co-learn. So you're trying to take on all the information by yourself. And then
Hmm.
you're trying to replicate that at home. But at the same time, the
Hmm.
office setting is not your home. So things that they teach
Hmm.
in the office doesn't
That's right.
carry over to the home. So there should be covered lactation services in the home where someone can come to you and work with you
Yes.
in your home setting with your support people or person,
Hmm.
and teach you how to successfully breastfeed that baby, or to navigate any breastfeeding
I
challenges,
love
because
that.
you need to meet people where they're at, and they're not
Absolutely.
at your clinic.
Then right. Oh, Tasha, and when you
Hmm.
think about that, like, let's not even add on barriers that you might have. What if you have
Hmm.
transportation issues and you physically can't get there, and you don't want to
Right.
take your newborn out on the bus
Hmm.
to go to an appointment, or get in an Uber, or
Hmm.
whatever the case may be. But then also leaning into lactation, and when you think about babies who are born preterm,
Hmm.
this is not just breast milk. This is life-saving medication for these babies.
Hmm.
And one thing I will uplift is, to me, I feel like it's crazy, but as like for our NICU nurses are not required to become certified lactation education educators. They're not required to. And it's something that, there are IBCLCs within the NICU spaces, but I do feel like that would be such an amazing initiative to bring to hospitals, because they can additionally support with the lactation journey for these mommies that don't have a traditional birthing experience, and really lean into this life-saving medication for babies.
And
So
it's true.
yes.
Yeah, and I can speak to my postpartum journey with my daughter. So she was born what's considered a low birth weight, and they actually held us
Yeah.
for an additional day, just because they wanted to monitor her. Like they didn't think she qualified for NICU,
Hmm.
but they didn't think she was safe to go home right away either. So they just
Hmm.
wanted to monitor her, make sure she stayed healthy, make sure she gained weight the next day. But in the hospital, I didn't really have issues with breastfeeding, and that was because they were helping me position and things like that. And she was pooping and peeing like she's supposed to do, so everything seemed normal. And then when we got home, everything kind of just went downhill, and she lost a lot of weight within the first like few days. Like I remember I showed you the pictures, like how she looked when we came out of the hospital versus
Yes.
when we got back home. It's like two different babies because she had
Yeah.
lost so much weight. She was so skinny. And I felt like such a failure because I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't properly feed my baby. I could see that she was like, in distress because I'm in distress.
Mhm.
And like
Mhm.
maybe I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And
Yeah.
so yeah, and that was, sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional. And that was
No,
really a
that's okay.
struggle.
Yeah.
So not having that in-home support, like I said, they made me come out to their clinic. And I was,
Yeah.
like I said, I was tired. I was dealing with the stress of us having breastfeeding challenges. I was dealing with the stress of I just pushed a human out. My body
Right.
is recovering. And now you want me to come every day to the clinic. And then I couldn't duplicate what I was learning in the clinic back at home. And the whole thing was just highly stressful.
Oh my
And what I
gosh.
didn't also know at the same time, I was dealing with postpartum depression. But
Yeah.
not only postpartum depression, I was dealing with postpartum rage, postpartum psychoses,
Oh
things I
my
didn't get
goodness.
diagnosed with until well after she was over a year old because I didn't know anything about those things.
Right.
No one had taught me to look out for these symptoms or taught my husband to look out for the things or what's
Mhm.
normal and what's abnormal. I thought I was just a mom who was anxious. So I
Mm.
would wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes put my finger on her nose to make sure she was breathing. That's not normal behavior
Mm.
to be doing that repeatedly throughout the night to make sure my baby was alive because now I'm not getting
Mm.
sleep.
Oh my
Yeah, and then
gosh.
I was getting easily agitated because I wasn't getting sleep and because I'm worrying about the baby. And plus
Oh
I'm
my
trying to do all the things.
gosh.
It was just compounding. So I
Oh
didn't
my
get I didn't get the lactation support that I really needed. I didn't get the mental health support I really needed. Thankfully,
Mm.
we came through it fine with no
Yeah.
issues,
Yes.
but that could have been a completely different story.
Oh
And
my
we've heard those
gosh.
completely different stories and how those have
Yes.
turned out. So I was really like grateful to participate with the Maternal Mental Health Alliance last year. I participated in their advocacy day,
Yes.
and I was just raising awareness about mental health issues. And that was
Yeah.
the first time that I realized what specific issues I had
Mhm.
because I was listening to the other moms describe their issues, and I'm like, wait, I have that too. Girl,
Right.
that's exactly the same thing I was doing. I was like, and it was just crazy to hear it, and it made me feel like I wasn't alone, that these things are
Yeah.
something that a lot of new moms deal with, or even well after their postpartum period. But that's why it's important to have those mental health supports
Wow.
in place and for people to know that they're there to access them and what symptoms and
Absolutely.
signs to look out for. So yeah, like we were asking that question about what would I tell my old self, I
Yeah.
would say to
Yeah.
then you recognize those signs and reach out for help. I didn't
Yeah.
know to reach out for help because I didn't know anything was wrong with me, you
Wow.
know? Yeah.
Tosh, that's so real. That's so real.
Mhm.
I will share, and I always keep going back to NICU because that was my postpartum
Mhm.
experience. Um, but like for me, originally I was pregnant with two and ended up giving birth to one.
Mhm.
And I didn't feel like I had the right to be able to grieve the loss of what I expected to have. So going through that, because my other son was, he was thriving, he was in the NICU, he was
Mhm.
growing and trying to get better. I felt like I should just be grateful for my son that I have. But one thing that I always uplift, which would be amazing in the NICU space, is having maternal mental health therapists on site to be able to
Mhm.
go around and talk to these families, because most of the moms or birthing people within that space are going through postpartum depression and don't realize it because they're
Mhm.
in survival mode for their baby.
Right.
We're not resting. We're still in the hospital settings, sleeping on chairs, or hopefully
Mhm.
if your NICU has a comfy bed or a section where you can rest. You're cold, you're not healing. And
Mhm.
so really uplifting the importance of maternal mental health. But also, now when our son was discharged, I will say we had amazing service with the regional center. We had therapists
Mhm.
that actually came into our home to be able to support our son and his development. And his therapist almost kind of became my therapist. And she was the
Mhm.
one who said, Jess, it sounds like you're dealing with like a little bit of postpartum depression. Make sure you're taking
Mhm.
care of yourself. Make sure that you're leaning into your own personal healing too. So I was grateful for that we did have in-home support where we didn't have to physically take him because we only had one car. So if
Mhm.
I had to physically take him, he was going to most likely miss a lot of his appointments for his growth
Mhm.
and development. So I do agree, Tosh. If they can come to us, go to the house settings, as long as it's safe and you feel comfortable having people into your home, I think that would be a huge game changer.
Yeah, and I think as we're both reflecting and listening to each other's stories, and stories I'm sure we've heard from other women too, the common thread is we didn't get all that support or knowledge of all those services until it was too late. Like all this information, if we had had all this information before, like how much different our birthing stories would have been. This is why I think it's important to educate those who are in puberty, basically, starting from a younger age and preparing them, even if they choose not to have children. I think they should come into that space with the knowledge of these are the options that I will have, or these are the resources I can tap into in the event that I do decide I want to have children.
Absolutely.
But we're starting all of these conversations and we're starting this information way too late. I was like 35 when I got pregnant with my daughter, and I didn't know any of that stuff. That's a problem.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a huge problem. So I wish that organizations would also not only just giving support and education when the person's already pregnant or after, but we need to start giving education way sooner than that. Open up that education for anyone who's in reproductive age. And yes, reproductive age can start as young as 8.
Absolutely. But
and we do know that there are teenagers out there who are pregnant, and I'm pretty sure they didn't have any of that information unless there was someone there to teach them, which in our community is very rare.
It's very rare.
Like we were whole grown women and didn't know about this stuff.
We didn't know about it. So grown, had no clue. Had no clue, and was almost like, I was terrified when I found out I was expecting to be full transparent, because for me, I live in a maternity care desert, and we're about 90 miles away from family. And I know you were away from family too. And so, not knowing how to navigate the systems of care without having additional resources like that, I found out after the fact, was difficult, but we made it through, thank goodness. And oh my goodness, if I knew then what I know now, oh goodness, I don't know if I would have been able to change like my outcome of, the preterm birth, but I do know that I would have been able to give myself more grace, and I would have had a lot more support throughout that journey, and that would have alleviated a lot of the stressors that were affecting my postpartum healing and my mental state of mind. So I love this, Tasha.
No, I love this too. So I would say for those in the community who are looking to give birth or who are planning to start a family at some point, what advice would you give them? Like if you could give them any advice.
If I could give them any advice, I would say do your research. I didn't start doing my research until I was pregnant. Do your research of the OBs in the area. Do your research of the local hospitals in your area. Do your research of knowing what hospitals do have a NICU in the case of if your baby has an underlying medical condition or you go into birth preterm. Look into doula. See if you can join in any educational sessions around birth. Figure out what type of birthing experience do you want to have. Do you want to give birth at home? Do you want to give birth at a birthing center? Or do you want to give birth at a hospital? And make sure it feels comfortable for you. Learn about lactation. Learn about how magical your body is. And get involved with, there's so many amazing community events like this week. Black Maternal Health Week is a perfect time for you to tap into the community resources that are out there, and research doula. See if you would like a doula, and just start being within community, because I feel like once you start being within community, everything else kind of aligns itself. But I would start with research, doulas, and then community for sure. Yeah. What about you? What about you, Taj?
I would say for me, find your village. Like when I was growing up in New York, I would always see those signs in school. It takes a village to raise a child, right?
Yeah.
What happened to those villages?
Right.
What happened to those villages? Because let me tell you, I didn't have one.
Yeah.
So as you stated earlier, my family was on the other side of the country. My mom did fly in to help when she could, and my sister did come, but I really didn't have that village, and I really wish I did. So I would say make sure you have that village, because you trying to do everything on your own, you and your husband or partner or father figure, whatever you want to address that person as, it can be done, but it's really hard. You need to be able to lean into other people. And if you don't have those close ties, you can have a doula, like you said. Having a midwife come into the home and assist you with things is really important. And I would say, and do your research, make sure you're fully informed on all of your choices.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, keep an open mind, because sometimes how we envision things to play out doesn't always happen. So you have to be willing to pivot, because if you don't, that can lead to issues.
Absolutely.
And I would say my advice for our community, and when I'm saying our community, I mean our Black community, is do not be gatekeepers of knowledge. There is no reason why the age of 35 or however old when you were pregnant that we didn't know that midwives existed, that we didn't know that doulas existed, that we didn't know about the Black Infant Program that has been around for almost 40 years.
Right.
There's no reason why we should not have had any of that information.
Yeah.
But the issue is, and I'm not going to say this is a widespread issue, but some people don't share, we're not sharing knowledge like we used to.
Yeah.
And we're just not becoming involved like we used to. Like I said, what happened to that village? We need to go back to that mindset, which is why us in this work and other organizations that we partner with on a regular basis, like Black Infant Health, like WIC, like IHP, and others, don't get offended, y'all, if I didn't mention you.
Okay.
We're all in the work of trying to get information into community about their options and their resources. Because right now in this country, we do have a huge maternal and infant health crisis, and that is not going to change if people don't know information that they need to know. If we remain in ignorance, nothing's going to change. And that is my main goal as a consortium manager, is to make sure that community is aware of their options and aware of the resources, so we can reduce those mortality rates.
Oh, Tasha.
And that is what brought me into this work.
Oh, I love that. I love it. And you know what? I will share. My goal as a program director here at Healthy Start is to make sure that our participants feel heard, they feel valued, they feel supported, and they feel like they have someone to go along the journey with them and make sure that they survive their birthing experience as best as we can, and make sure that their partner survives their birthing experience and enjoys it. And because birth is such a beautiful thing. And I feel so lucky to be able to be a part of a program that literally bridges the gaps and stands the gaps for families as they navigate the complicated systems of care. And so making sure our participants feel loved, they feel heard, they feel valued, they feel supported, and they can honestly create their village within us and within community. That's my goal. That is my goal, Tash.
That's
all these beautiful babies. Bring them on.
Love it.
Bring them on.
Yeah. And I want to say to all, if there are any Hollywood producers that are listening, if there are any media producers that are listening, I would love for us to see more doulas, more midwives, more, I don't know, stories around birthing, or just normalizing that in our shows. Like I said, it was when I was young, I remember watching Call the Midwife, or How to Call the Midwife, but it was a British show. I don't remember ever seeing anything like that in America, or anything within our shows that talk about birth besides in a hospital. I don't remember ever being exposed to anything like that. And I think a lot of it will start if we start to put it in our media, then we can start exposing our younger people to it. So when they're older, that seems normal. Like it's not an alternative or a taboo thing.
Right.
Like these are normal options.
Normal options. And start talking to your kids about it younger. My boys know. They already know. They're going to grow up and be daddy doulas. Okay? They already know.
That. But we need to start normalizing things.
Yeah, they need to know it. They need to know. They need to know how oh my goodness, what's the word? How magical their presence is too, and how their voice matters within the space too, and how even though they're not carrying, they're also pregnant, right? They're going along with the journey with their partner. And so I think it's so important to normalize it. It's life. It's beautiful. That's how we all came into this world. So I agree with you, Tash. Yeah.
And I love seeing those organizations, like it was the Dad's Doula on the social media. And then like we have San Bernadino Fatherhood with Mr. Ryan Berryman, and we have SBF's Fatherhood with Mr. Larry Butler. And I love seeing those organizations that really are getting followers involved, because they're really important to maternal health as well.
Oh my gosh, they're so important. Their voice, we need them in that space. They are our eyes and our ears when we can't speak, we can't hear, and they're our safety net, and we need them to be educated in that space as well, so they can speak for us in the midst of as we give birth. and advocate for us. So that's so
Yeah,
important.
we need to kill that
Okay.
stigma. Black fathers are very involved in their
Oh,
households,
there's very,
very
yes,
involved with their children and their wives. Let's kill that
mm-hmm.
stigma, please. Let's bury it and be
Please,
gone with it.
please. I could talk about that all day. My husband's amazing. I have an amazing father. I have an amazing brothers. I have amazing nephews like that love, that cherish us, that stand in the gap for us. And so, yes, we have to just get rid of that stigma because, yeah, our dads are amazing.
They certainly are. I'm thinking about that now, seeing my brother with my niece. It's adorable.
Oh my gosh, I love
It
you.
is
You gotta share
adorable.
pictures. I love it, Tosh.
Yeah, she's a year older than my daughter. So
Oh
they
my
gave birth first and then I followed. But
goodness.
seeing him with her is just a blessing. It's
It's so
beautiful.
beautiful.
Hmm.
Oh, Tosh, this is amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, for having this discussion with me. And I hope that our stories can help other Black women and Black mothers feel empowered and feel supported during their journeys. Just a shameless plug, Healthy Start is a free program that is
Yes.
open to all pregnant and postpartum individuals within San
Mm-hmm,
Bernardino, Riverside, and San Diego
mm-hmm,
County, not
mm-hmm.
just for the birthing mom, but also for the father and partner as well.
As
Mental health
well.
services,
Yes.
wraparound concierge,
Wrap it
resource
around.
navigation.
Mhm. All the
Please,
things.
yes, and
Please.
we work in collaboration with other organizations as well. We do not gatekeep anybody. The more
Mm-mm.
resources you can have, the better, but you're always free and
Mhm.
available to join our program. And we
Yes,
would love to have and
please.
support you.
Love to have you. Let us love on you. Let us love on you.
That is right. And our program, although our target demographic is Black women, however, our program is open to all ethnicities. We feel all moms
Yes.
need support. So we are here
Mhm.
for all the moms.
All mamas. Oh, let us love on you. Thank you, Tosh. Thank
No,
you so
thank
much.
you, Jessica. This was a
Okay.
pleasure.
It's a
Until
pleasure.
next time.
Next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this special episode. Remember, Black Maternal Health Week is a time to raise awareness and advocate for better care and support for Black mothers. Until next time, take care and stay informed.